And it was when he was, I believe, 82. And it's got recipes in.
Ooh.
And crumb cake, biscuits, grape juice, homemade grape juice that you can.
Oh, wow.
And sloppy joes. And
these are family recipes.
yeah, stuffed peppers, Italian sausage casserole, peanut butter pie, and we've got Courtney making up the chowder recipe.
Oh my God.
What she all did from start to finish.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That is involved. That,
yes.
Look at it. That's
yes.
just 2 whole pages at
yes.
least of
yes.
information. And there's a nice photo in there of Mr. Retzlaff running for office. Right, he's got a whole campaign sign in there.
Did you see the picture on the wall?
Oh yeah, I've got to take a picture. Yes, there is a sign at the plaque from the dais, and that is something else. Yeah,
so
it's beautiful.
It's been an exciting life.
Well, we're here to talk about your life a bit, and also about the Retzlaff family and your place also in the history of our town and leadership of our town. So this is December 15th, right?
Yes, it is.
So 2022.
No, it's the 16th.
16, sorry.
Yeah.
And welcome to the Retzlaff farm here in Lockport Road, and we're interviewing Diane Retzlaff, the wife of the late Kenneth Retzlaff, who was a town councilman for many years and a major staple in the history of our community, and especially with regards to farming and business and so forth. So really a pleasure to have. It's really such a pleasure to be in your home today. And the orange from Hoover's really is delicious. That's this stuff.
My son brings me that all the time. Yeah. So we farmed 88 acres on this side, and then his brothers farm about 80 some acres over across the street, Willis's farm. So
oh wow. Yeah.
We used to farm Norman Walks over here, but that was sold to Horizon. And then we rented from Paul Hasley too. And then Brian left the farm and got a job in a factory, our helper. And so he got a job on in the factory, and then we had to downsize. And since Kenny passed away, I've sold all the machinery and stuff and so forth.
So at this point, it's just down to the house and the stuff like that.
The neighbor, Kenny's cousin, rents the land from me, and he farms it now.
Oh, great.
So.
And when did your family move here and settle in Wheatfield?
I would say the early 1900s. The Retzlaffs used to live on Falcon Acres in that area. Of course, it's now Falcon Acres, and nothing is left of it. But
sure.
They lived there first, and then they bought this house from the Mennonites. Yeah.
And when someone looks at the house, of course, from the very front, they can see that it is 1830s, I believe, right? Early 1830s, and the Mennonites were here for roughly 10 years, 12 years or so, and there were some that stayed behind yet, but most of them moved on, and then other families came in.
Yes.
And I can see it's been added on to at the back.
Yeah, it's been added on to.
I know how old the addition is.
Not really.
Okay.
I would say the 1800s for sure.
Oh, sure. Yeah, late 1800s, probably late 1800s, right in there. Like a lot of what happens, they either add on to the front or the back of it, and someone usually go up to someone's home or something like that. I figure, if you look really hard, you can find the central nugget, the oldest part, and then it branches out from there because, of course, you used everything that you had, and just why not? So yourself. Where were you?
I was born on Lockport Road at the corner of Nash and Lockport, just down the road here, about a mile and a half, 2 miles maybe. And so I met Kenny on the school bus, and so from there we became friends. And when we were married, I moved 2 miles down the road, of course, from my house to here, with all my belongings on a dump truck. And
Oh,
so it was interesting.
yes, we were
I
made.
cried all the way down here.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh wow. And you know, sometimes it might happen the other way around, but a lot of the time it's the lady who moved in with the man. This was his.
Yeah.
This was his family's
Yes,
farm
it
first.
was his
Yeah.
grandmother lived here, his mother and father,
Mhm.
and then we built out the front part of the house, so it was livable, and because a couple rooms had not been used in many, many years, and so we built it out, and it supplied us with the kids for a number of years.
Just
Yeah,
built out.
yeah.
Is the house that you initially grew up in still around, or?
Oh yes.
Ah.
And my grandfather's house is right next to it, where my daughter lives.
Oh my.
So I have a lot of history here.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And what grade was that or so when you guys initially met up? Did either of you
When
ever?
we met up in going on the bus, probably 9th or 10th grade, because we were bused into Niagara Falls High School.
Oh, okay.
And he went to Trot, and I went to Niagara Falls High School.
Oh, okay. And did you go to any of the one-room schoolhouses that were still operating at about that time? Yeah.
I went to St. James.
Oh, yeah.
The DuBois Funeral Home.
Sure.
And Kenny went to St. Peter's.
Oh, okay.
So.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are a lot of people don't always figure that one-room schoolhouses were still quite common, even in the western part of the United States and in Canada, well into the 20th century. Because you know, some communities remain small, and anyways, and that would suit them okay.
I had the same teacher for I think almost 6-7 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
You remember any of them?
Yeah. What?
You remember any of them by name?
Oh, sure. Pastor Graubaugh, or Teacher Graubaugh.
Teacher Graubaugh. Yeah.
Teacher Graubaugh, yeah. And I had him, and Kenny would have had Teacher Wamsgans. And so, like I say, that's how we met.
Gotcha.
On the school bus.
Oh, cool. And also, what was he? What was he basically like for you? Was he? Did he work, of course, personally on the farm itself, right? He worked on it along with other people. Did you have? Did he and you guys have labor, different levels of labor, seasonal labor, lived-in labor? Yes,
the young boys, but then we had our own family after a while that had helped out. In the first part of our marriage, we had cows, milking cows, and that was all the time. That was so tied down to everybody being home all the time. That was just awful. Morning and night, you were tied down to the cows. But after a while, like I say, 20 years ago, we sold the cows. And so we had a couple of cousins and stuff that we hired at that time to help us with the haying, and grandchildren, and our own children, but they hated it all. They would come back and help us with the hay. Yeah,
it's relatable. You know, some people. I know of a good friend of mine whose family had a family farm over in Warsaw, New York, and none of the children took it up. It was a dairy farm too, and it's tough. It
does, because of the wives too, that they don't want that kind of life, and I don't blame them.
Right.
I always said I'd never marry a farmer.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
What were some of the valuable lessons of having something like a farm, and that things, worldly lessons and things like that, that you might pass on to today's generations that may not ever know of working on a farm like that?
Well, it was hard work, and always had a big garden. Grandma had a big garden out here, and we had our own beef
Mm.
and our own pork. We always butchered 4 pigs every year, and then we got that pork and the beef, the cows. We butchered them too, and so we ate very good. And they had chickens out here too with
Mhm.
eggs, so that
Wow.
we had everything we needed here.
Any surprises that you came across in the process of that you would never have guessed would happen on a farm that Ken or someone showed you how to do? Or
I had to help on the field once in a while, and I didn't
Mhm.
expect that.
Goodness.
So,
Yeah,
but it was fun anyway.
sure.
Yeah.
And so, what kind of career did you have besides the farm, or was the
Well,
farm
I
your
got
reason?
married almost right out of high school. I was a secretary at Bell,
Mhm.
and like I say, right after that we got married. So
So Bell Aerospace then.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
See or experience anything interesting there while you were there?
No, not really. My mother
Yeah.
worked there in the cafeteria many years before me,
Oh wow.
so that was kind of nice too. Yeah.
You ever meet Larry Bell?
Pardon?
Did you or Ken ever meet Larry Bell in passing?
No,
Or
my
something?
mother
Just
did.
in case. Okay.
My mother did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so Ken, we know him, and I know him growing up, visiting town hall and so forth,
Mm-hmm.
knowing him as the town councilman, of course, the person who built my home, Alfred Bolanek, and other
Yeah.
people knew him too. And how did Ken come into public service besides the farm and everything like that, and knowing such people like
Ed Greinert. You remember the name Ed Greinert?
Absolutely.
He came over here one day and he said, "Ken, I think you ought to run for office, public office." He was just so surprised, and he's, "Really? You really think so? I could do that, a farmer?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "I want you to run for public office." And that's how it started.
Oh my.
Yeah. And they were very good to us, Greinerts. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Greinerts were down the street from us too, and
Oh, yes.
my sister's best friend at the time was a Greinert, and she was a granddaughter to Edward Greinert,
Mm-hmm.
and Ed Greinert's father apparently was supervisor
Yes.
before Stan Brzezinski.
Yes.
So he was bookended by 2 Greinerts.
Yeah.
Before and after.
That's true.
Another family right there.
Yeah.
Making their life here, and so as when was he elected? Ken Retzlaff. When was he initially elected?
I can't tell you.
Oh, okay.
I can't tell you.
Okay. But how long did he serve as councilman?
I think he served 32 years.
Yeah, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's something else. And of course, it's a 4-year term thing even back then, right?
But he was also on different committees while he was elected and after he was elected, and so that's how it got to be 32 years.
And what are some of the personalities that both of you encountered over the years, whether it's through meetings or receptions or, even Grange Hall? If you ever did things in the Grange, what were the people's responses to him in office? Did they how did life change?
I was going to say everybody was really very kind. Nobody was nasty or anything. Very, very kind, and yeah.
And personality-wise, how was he like, Ken?
What was his personality?
Yeah.
Well,
basically,
first of all, he had to get ready in the beginning. He had to get ready for council meetings all the time by 6 o'clock, and so he had to get the chores done and have the kids help and finish up so that he could. I had all the clothes laid out, and he had to get ready for the meetings. So that was always very trying time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did he ever come back with any interesting stories?
Well, if there were important issues brought up before the town, he would say, "Oh, you won't believe what so-and-so said or so-and-so said." So
You don't have to get specific, but just
yeah,
obviously, in small town politics,
yeah.
of course. And what if was he in office at the time of the? Well, he wasn't he wasn't in office during the time of the second town hall, right? He was elected. You served in the newer town hall.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
during that period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he knew. You guys knew people like Stan Brzezinski and
Yes.
of course Grinded and so forth.
Yes.
What were they like with you
Oh,
guys?
very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Brzezinski was very nice, very polite man. And Ed Griner too also. They were very kind to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you guys know Terry Coon?
Yep. Knew Terry Coon too.
Mm-hmm. And of course Tim Demler, Well, indeed. The whole, yes, the lineup, And so what was I know that obviously you guys are already very busy here on the farm, and being a councilman must have been extra. So did he find time? Did you guys find time to enjoy other things in the meantime,
well,
or as the kids grew up?
We got to go to New York every year. It isn't that way now anymore. They don't do that, but we got to go to New York every year with the town. I had to pay my own way, but Kenny had his way paid, and that was fun. And we enjoyed the people so much that went with us. Larry Helwig and can't think of his name. Doucette.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a fun time. We had a great time.
What are the different?
Went to a couple plays.
Oh wow! Which ones? If you.
Lion King.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. That's fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
For meetings like that, for a meeting or engagement like that, that's awfully fun. What are some of the different businesses or hangouts that were favorites of either of you or of the families on occasion? And did you ever go to places like the Waikiki Hotel or the Tedwa or Sawyer or something like that? Where were those places like at the time?
The guys after the meeting, well, we're going to see you at the Sawyer Creek, aren't we going to see you there? Yeah, they'll go there. So they went there.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, Burkle's closed up,
Mm-hmm.
early. And, yeah, and then we like to go to Jetport.
Mm-hmm.
And so.
Yeah, you guys get involved in any kind of sports-related stuff, or enjoy watching drag racing? Because I know he had the Niagara Drag Strip here and all that.
He enjoyed bowling. He bowled for many years on a team, and that was fun for him. He enjoyed that, and he faithfully went to the Buffalo Bills games from the early Rock Pile Stadium. From then on, he had tickets for that. And so he always followed them very closely, yeah.
Any particular stores or places that you'd shop locally? Of course, big box stores eventually took over, but what were some of the places that you kind of remember dipping into for various things, or even supplies to help with?
We had the Sanford Mill. We had to go over there and buy all our stuff, our feed for the cows and everything. Mm-hmm. And so we went there and. Yeah.
Go to the Agway, or?
No, we bought our gas from Agway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Any shopping at delicatessens or places like that?
Kenny hated shopping. There's no way he was going to go shopping. And so I brought home all of his clothes, his shoes, everything. I brought everything home. So that was, like I say, he hated shopping.
Oh, well, he looked sharp, though. I always thought it was his thing, but, he always had the sharpest ties I've ever seen,
Thank you.
Sometimes white shirts, black shirts, red shirts, He was fairly colorfully dressed up there. Yeah. Very, very sharp up there. Yeah, so, compliments to the chef there.
That's for me, yeah.
And did other farmers, by the way, come here, or did you go to other farmers just to hang out, or just talk about the day's activities, or something like that, or get involved with helping each other maintain business?
Probably just he went with his cousin over here, Kelvin, would come over and discuss things just because he was close by. But we did a lot of business with Don Walk and Andrew Millville down the road in Lockport there that we sold our corn to and stuff. So
I like feed corn.
yeah.
You feed corn, yeah.
Yeah, seed corn.
I know a lot of suburban city dwellers might not know what feed corn is. Compared to the regular. It is edible, but it's harder, right?
It's terrible.
Yeah, it's not a good thing. What do you think, or what did Ken think about the changing conditions of Wheatfield in the area? What were things like politics back then versus
he
today?
didn't like it, and he didn't like the solar farm next door here.
No.
But we talked against it, and
sure,
town board okayed it. So it really was a very sad time in our lives because we worked that land. We farmed that land, and now we couldn't farm it anymore. So did the best you could.
Sure. And I imagine some people would put up either a solar farm or a cell tower to just supplemental income to a place like that. That's probably why a lot of these end up.
Well, the small farmer is on his way out because that's just how it is. Yeah, that's just how it is. What else
do you think was learned about both being a farm and being a public servant as Ken was, and
being an honest man? What he said he did, and I don't know of any other honest person like that. What he said, what he said he would do, he would do it. And if somebody came here with a problem, we'd try and correct it. Then,
just being straightforward, just honest, straight. Yeah, I know farmers are quite straightforward a lot of the time because they kind of they have to keep a schedule naturally, the most important schedule naturally of keeping things going and going with the seasons and so forth.
You could depend on him to keep his word. Yeah.
Sure. And I'm sure he knew, and you knew James Hoyer and Winston Mueller. Yeah.
Yes.
When
they're wise, and they all went to New York with us. So that was fun.
I spoke to Jim Hoyer in one of our interviews, and he said that when I asked him the same question about the way politics has changed, and he said, Stan, and we'd have our sort of pre-meet with everybody, and he said Stanley Brzezinski at the time. He was supervisor, of course, for 20 years. Yeah. Were Republican or Democrat? It wasn't such a sharp divide at the time. Really.
Right, that's true. Right. That's very true. Kenny would always say that. Yeah.
And Jim said something would be kind of surprising to so many different people now when it's such a divisive atmosphere. He says, we're in a pre-meet. Stan would look around the room, and depending on the topic, and he would say, would you feel comfortable with the subject tonight? And if Jim honestly said, no, I would rather not discuss that tonight because of this, and Stan would go, okay, we won't discuss it.
Yes.
That kind of courtesy of being...
Yes, he was a very fine gentleman, yeah.
And Winston Mueller, another thing that he said in our interview was that, they did try to tap him, sort of, to kind of have him run in the late 1980s for a reason. They just, I guess, maybe wanted to fill a seat for even a year or something, a couple of years. And he said to me, I found out that by the late 80s or so, for example, not a whole lot of people knew me anymore like they used to back in the day. And it sort of reminds me that when a small community gets bigger and more people move in, it starts to, not dilute, but it starts to complicate the electorate. And
now you know that Randy Retzlaff kind of took Kenny's place. Now the name was recognized already.
Sure, right, of course.
And so he's been running now ever since, and I hope he's doing a good job.
He is. I sense that, and and he's a straight up guy. It takes right off the family perfectly. And you sense that. And hardworking guy, contractor, honest. And so forth. Honest with you, straight up.
Like I say, that's what's important.
Mm-hmm. I met him at one of the contracting jobs where he was converting the former Hills and Ames into the Burlington Coat Factory, and the company he worked for was doing that.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
says, "Oh, hello,"
Yeah.
and so forth. Is there anything any special memory you have living in this grand house, or
I had to get along with a lot of people because I was living with in-laws.
Oh, no, yeah.
The in-laws lived back here and I lived in the front, and I had to get along, with them. So that was sometimes hard.
Was everybody of different beliefs and attitudes about things at the time, so you had to kind of accommodate those?
Certainly, and of course some of our ideas were we put up a swimming pool across the driveway. Somebody gave it to us, so we put the swimming pool up, and Grandma Retzlaff was very upset about that, with all that mess and noise. So that's what I had to deal with. Yeah.
Anything that you learned from them too, from their generation, going further back?
Yes, that she lived with her mother-in-law, and things were difficult many times.
You didn't have, of course, there was no 911 exactly at the time. There was no sewers.
No.
Even up until the 80s, they had to update the town with the rest of that.
That's right. That's right.
So obviously, I know you from, obviously to me, anyways, you're a member of our Historical Society of North German Settlements of Western New York.
Mm-hmm.
And what made you become interested in that society?
Well, I can surely tell you, my mother was one of the founding members.
Certainly. Right.
And so that's why I was interested in it. And she has several items over at das house that she donated, and she always liked that. So that's why I try and get my kids interested in it, and I can't do it. They make fun of me. So yeah. So.
Did you have a number of good times, or with regards to helping to docent the museum, or what do you take away from the museum as you see from that?
I guess how people are really interested in their background or who their ancestors were. They come in really wanting to know that.
You sense some more people are getting involved with that now. Yeah.
Yeah, and how hard our ancestors had to struggle to make a living, and just to make a living.
Yeah, just day by day.
Yeah.
No frills.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because usually Wheatfield is not necessarily considered on the map exactly. I mean, Bell Aerospace probably did that. For example, Bell Aircraft, I should rather say at the time, and a couple of other things. But it's the best kept secret.
Yeah.
Maybe in New York State.
Yeah, that's
right.
What I mean? That's right. That's right. I love it here. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I love it here. This is my home, and now I'm by myself, so
sure. Yeah.
I don't like that, but that's just how it is.
Of course. What advice would you or would Kenneth give to younger generations who might want to get involved either in politics, in farm life, even in places like the society and church life? Yes, that was good.
Church is very important to us.
Good question there.
Yeah.
What?
And my children are all involved in church. Mm-hmm. They're all involved as either trustee or Sandy counts money at church, and Carol is involved, so they're all involved at church. And I'm very proud of that. Very proud of that.
And you brought up something that's good too, of course, church life, and how important is faith and family essentially.
You have to have faith,
right? I mean, yeah.
Or there's no other. Your faith is so important to you. When you're in trouble, you pray for help and healing and whatever. And so, yes, that is very important.
And what church do you go to?
St. Peter's.
St. Peter's, okay.
Yes, St. Peter's Church.
And what are a couple of stories you might relate to about?
I just thought of Christmas.
Anything,
Kenny was celebrating Christmas Eve day with a milk truck driver,
Mm-hmm.
and they had too much to drink. And I was so mad that he was drunk and he had to do chores. And I says, I'm going to church without you. So I went to church by myself with the children. Who sits down next to me but Kenny? Oh, so that was a story to tell.
Sure.
Yeah.
And are there certain things that was in use or spoken of or spoken about back then that younger people like me, would probably be surprised to hear was done or used? Like any certain tools or any?
Now, what did you say?
Like any were there any tools or sayings or methods of the church you went to or the farm here that younger people would be surprised was done at the time?
Yeah, I guess they said that was before my time also. The men would sit on one side and the women on the other. So, like I said, that was before my time.
Sure.
And so...
I guess nothing too odd, you know.
Pardon?
Guess nothing too odd, you know.
Yeah.
Except that everything was more locally done and practiced, right?
Yeah.
Rather than these larger interests that come in and do a lot of that too.
We have a new minister right now,
right?
And so that's important to us, and we love him, and so that's going to have to be our leader for a number of years, just like St. James has a son of our congregation over there as a minister, so I hope that he stays over there for a while, you know.
Yeah, I met him. He's a good man
Kaminska.
and everything. Yeah, he's a good man.
Yeah,
good man.
yeah.
And we had a great time at the Christmas carol, him singing German and English there, and just trying to get my mouth around some of those terms, you know, just going along the line. It was a lot of fun, but your brain, I guess the foundation of my question was your brain kind of has to think differently when you're doing things like slaughtering a cow on the farm. You know, it's a different mentality to have to get into. It's a matter-of-fact mentality, right? And speaking a different language like that.
Yes.
You know, as the ancestors had different mentality, different method of putting things and so forth.
They all spoke the Low German in our area here, never the High German, so...
And did your family ever have contacts with the old world yet? Other family members there, back and forth, or did that kind of?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
And what's the most interesting artifact of your family's history that will definitely stay in the family no matter what, or no matter how odd it is?
You know, when Dad died,